Hey, what's up guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over the absolute best method for getting the best possible loot. So firstly, getting mythic armor or any specific piece of armor isn't really possible. You can't just pick the one you want. So you have to run dungeons and just hope your luck isn't trash. So I'm going to help you try to give yourself the best possible chance to get the best possible loot. And to do that, my first tip is going to be a little pay to win, but I figured I should throw it out here anyways. It's going to be the double loot game pass. What this does is pretty much every time you run a dungeon, instead of getting one piece of loot, you get two pieces of loot. Now, this doesn't actually increase your statistical chances, so it's not like a 0.5% chance goes up to a 1. It just means you can run that 0.5% chance back twice, pretty much. And it might not seem like a lot, but I mean, if I do 100 dungeons with it and you do 100 dungeons without it, I'll come away with like 200 pieces of gear and you'll come away with 100. So it is, it helps, but it isn't the be all end all, especially since altars exist. So if you can get the 2x game pass, that helps a lot. But if not, I wouldn't sweat it too much. It's not like the best game pass. So for my first actual tip, besides the pay to win one, it's going to be Lunar Shards. I made a video on Lunar Shards. You can go watch that if you want. But with Lunar Shards, you can get a plus 50% loot luck. And that helps like crazy. It's not stackable. So it's just like plus 50% is the only boost you can get. You can't stack them. And it lasts for 15 minutes. They're really good. So if you have any extra loot like Lunar Shards, or you're looking for one specific piece of armor, maybe it's worth grinding out some Lunar Shards, getting the plus 50% loot luck, and then grinding out some dungeons. But definitely, if you're really trying to go for loot, I would consider that. My next tip is going to be altars. Altars are good because they're like the two. This is why I said the 2x game pass isn't the be all end all, because if you have extra elements to throw at altars, you can spawn in 3 bosses, 3 extra bosses. So that means you go from getting 1 piece of loot to getting 4 pieces of loot, which is way better than the 2x loot game pass. So this is one of the most important methods, is hitting altars when you can, because with altars you can get 4 times the loot, and a little bit more XP as well. So if you have extra elements, don't ever sell them. Don't ever sell your extra elements or elements you don't want. Throw them at altars and just give yourself a chance to get better loot. For my third tip, I'm going to say playing with other people. And I say this partly because of the altars as well, because when you have more people that can throw elements at the altars, and you're eventually going to run out of elements to give to the altar to spawn more bosses, to spawn more loot. So if you're playing with other people, you can all be putting elements into these altars. And don't be scared if they put elements into the altars. That's fine, because even if they're the ones to put elements into the altars, everybody gets the extra rewards from the bosses at the end. So it doesn't really matter who does it. As well as playing with other people will allow you to complete more dungeons in the same time frame. So, if you have 15 minutes to play or something like that, if you do it with 3 other people, you can probably do an extra dungeon or 2. Which just also goes to further to increase the chances of you getting good loot. So I would definitely suggest playing with other people for those reasons. For my next tip, it's going to be doing raids, like the lightning katana. Everybody wants it. Either you want it or you have it. Say the raid is Snow Castle, right? You can combine some of my other tips, like there's altars in these raids. They don't really matter as much, and you probably shouldn't hit altars and raids, because that makes them significantly harder, but they're there. But if you combine the plus 50% loot luck with the raids, you can make your chance of getting something good way higher, because raids already drop you 10 pieces of loot. I don't know the exact number, I'm just guessing. It's 10 pieces of loot. So I'm using the lightning katana here for an example, but it can be Atlantis as well, and you're going for a mythic or whatever. But I'm using the lightning katana as an example. If it's Snow Castle and you're okay, I want the lightning katana, or the Grimshade katana before you upgrade it to the lightning katana, but I want that piece of loot. So you hit the plus 50% loot luck, you load into the raid, and you get 10 pieces of loot. There's a way better chance of you then getting the good piece of loot, you know, combining those two things, like doing the raid and hitting the plus 50% loot luck. So I think that's probably one of the strongest methods, but the raids only just came, so that's like pretty new. But definitely do raids, because not only do they give you a bunch of loot, they also give you some gems and a ton of XP. Next, make sure you're running it on the hardest difficulty possible. So don't be running on random difficulties. This is probably obvious, but run on the difficulty that gives you the highest loot luck. And it'll tell you when you go to click on a specific dungeon what the loot luck is. But I wanted to mention this also partly to tell anybody who might not know, don't do infinites, even though it says the loot luck's really high. If you run infinites for a few hours, you'll probably just walk away with a bunch of blues and nothing you even wanted. So just don't do infinites. They're really ineffective for getting good loot. You'll get a lot of loot. Like you'll get like a bajillion blues and like a bunch of stuff to sell, I guess, if that's what you want. But if you want good loot like mythics and legendaries, I would suggest running regular dungeons, and then run the regular dungeons with the highest like loot luck % chance. This is, for right now at least, probably the best way to get good loot. Run raids, hit altars, play with friends so you can get as many done as quickly as possible. The loot lucks, play on the hardest dungeon you can. Those are probably your best methods. Oh, also the 2x game pass, but that's pay to win, so if you can't do that, it's whatever. And honestly, the 2x game pass, it's good, but like if you're hitting altars, it's like it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Like the 2x game pass, you don't need it. It's just there if you want to give yourself a little bit better of a chance, but you know. But as long as you're hitting altars, it's whatever if you have it or don't. There might come better methods for grinding loot and getting good loot, but for right now, I think that's generally the best ways to do it. Like for me, when I was getting my last Overlord piece, I got this before the raids came out, so I didn't even do it through that. What I did is I just hit altars, I got a loot luck thing, and I was just running it with one other person, and that's when I got it. Now, just be aware, even if you're doing all of this, it's not like guaranteed you're going to get good stuff every time. The percentage chances of getting good stuff is still really small. Like I'm using the lightning katana again, or the Grimshade katana. I'm going to use that again for an example because everybody wants it. It's still a 0.3% chance. Well, I guess now I'm looking on easy again. Even on hardcore, it's only 0.5% chance. So statistically speaking, if you're just running hardcore, you need to run that 200 times to get it. It's incredibly small. But like say you're spawning altars. Okay, so now you don't need to run it 200 times. You only need to run it 50 times statistically, because now you're spawning in 4 bosses per run and you're getting 4 items. Okay, then maybe you have loot luck and that goes up to 0.75% chance. So I think that's what now, like 33 times or something like that. I don't really know. I'm not a math major or anything like that. I'm just telling you how like you can slowly kind of like increase your odds of getting it. But even with all of your increasing odds, all of that, it's still never going to be like an amazing chance. It's never going to be like 100% you run it, you get good loot. You're still going to need to do a lot of them. So just want you to be aware of that. And also always avoid infinites. These are complete garbage. Don't be deceived by the 2x loot luck. You will walk away with a billion random wizard hats. You don't do that. But that's really all I have for today's video on helping you get the best possible loot. If you liked it or found it informative, or maybe you know a better method than me, I'd be more than happy to hear it, because there's still stuff I want to try to get as well, like the new sword from the newest dungeon. I haven't managed to get that. So if you have any methods that you do, be sure to comment them. But if you found that helpful, if you liked the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thanks. See ya.